This is Up Next. I'm Tiziana Deering. Paraguay pulled off a huge upset against Germany in Foxborough yesterday. It was the latest thrill in this summer's dramatic and boisterous World Cup. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu is all in on the cup. She's been at fan rallies, even poured pints for Team USA supporters at the Dubliner pub this month. Wu and I sat down yesterday, and she told me the World Cup isn't just bringing the party to Boston, it's bringing money, too.
I think everyone expected a bump, but to have bars run out of kegs and need to have emergency supplies come in was
as happened with Sam
quite
Adams, for
exciting. And we heard some stories, even when I was speaking with some of the journalists from abroad. They had profiled and interviewed people who did not have tickets, were not intending to come, but after they saw how much fun it was and how much, particularly the Tartan Army, was enjoying themselves, people were booking plane tickets and flying over just to be in the city enjoying the watch parties, even if they couldn't make it to the stadium.
What about the costs, public costs? Police overtime, for example, always an issue in the city budget. Do you have a sense of the scope there?
Our officers and all of our first responders have definitely been working extra hard this summer season and stretched with events in our neighborhoods, as well as many of the downtown activations and large crowds out and about. We have had very little incident in terms of any of the foot traffic and activity leading to, behavior that would be troubling
Even
or
in
anything
like the
like
public
that.
drinking areas that have been designated,
Exactly. Everything
et cetera.
has gone remarkably smoothly. Every day there are some issues that need to be addressed, but we are, everything is going according to plan. And I always believe the best way to prove something is just to test it, measure it, and show what the result was. So we'll be looking to really capture as much of that data as we can on the economic impact, as well as the kind of quality of life and neighborhood and small business anecdotal feedback, so we can package that and make that presentation when the time comes.
So two big changes taking advantage in part of state policy changes that are temporary. One, some public drinking areas, like where people can have alcohol outside, like you might see in New Orleans. The other, the option of extending last call until 3 a.m. At this stage, would you like to see either of both of those made permanent?
Absolutely. We've definitely learned, and in some places have had a little bit more cleanup efforts that go all the spraying down the ground and everything afterwards, so that it can be back to beautiful the next morning. But the businesses have really reported very positive experiences, and we've had over 100 businesses, small businesses, restaurants take advantage of the extended hours provision, and that's also had really positive feedback so far.
Not all of Wu's proposals are getting positive feedback. She's supporting a controversial plan to remake part of Boston's Blue Hill Avenue, using bus-only lanes in the middle of the Ave. The proposal affects mostly neighborhoods of color, from Roxbury to Mattapan. Residents who oppose it are worried about traffic. They also cite a long-standing lack of trust with the city of Boston. I asked Wu if the pushback has changed her mind about the bus lanes.
I remain fully supportive of trying to make sure we're improving public transit access and traffic flow and beautification on that corridor. Those are multiple goals that this project was always intended to deliver. Now, the grant funding that has been allocated, it's funding that's in hand, over $150 million between state and federal funds, that is tied to public transit improvements, with a center running bus lane as the way to ensure that there's significant improvement in experience for public transit riders. The design, though, matters. In the last version of the public design for this project, the way the bus stops were initially placed would nearly double the number of stoplights on that corridor. And so that design, for example, I could not support, and we should not pursue federal funding if it is left at where it is. But that the way the process always happens is you start with you put something on paper, and then you refine and refine and refine as it gets through the process.
Where are you with the design as it stands now?
So we're working towards 30% design. Obviously up to 100% is when every little detail gets locked in and is ready for construction. The goal is for there to be a larger public meeting hosted by the MBTA and the city sometime late summer or fall.
Two Boston city councilors are positing that instead there should be an Orange Line extension into the area. Would you tell Blue Hill Ave residents that that's a serious, plausible option?
Look, if there's any belief that I have about government, it's that we actually should be throwing the huge, gigantic, impossible ideas out there, because if we're not even talking about it, then there will be no way to move towards it. It's also important to be truthful and direct with our residents that something needs a certain level of feasibility to be considered a more immediate proposal. We have $150 million plus in hand right now for improvements that can happen. And we can also work towards what would be a many decades long process and many, many billions of dollars cost, a scale of investment to find a new right of way, potentially have to take land in order to have the space to dig, then fund digging the tunnel. I believe it's not an either or, but a both and to work towards the short term too.
The National Weather Service has an extreme heat watch in effect starting on Wednesday. By Thursday, we could see temperatures, thermometer temperatures above 100 degrees with a heat index even higher. What's your message to Boston residents this week?
Unfortunately, Boston is getting more and more used to these very high heat days for sustained periods of time. And so we have cooling centers that will open. We have misting tents and other resources that will be available out in the communities. We get our water features on. And so in the parks, there are places where kids can stay cool and still have something to do. And please call 911 if you are experiencing weakness or a sense of dizziness or anything, because the consequences can happen pretty fast, and we want to be there to support.
Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, thanks so much for joining us.
Always great to be with you.